Check. Okay, guys. So, just a real quick question here for all of you. So we're going to talk about search engine optimization. How many people in this room have no idea what that means? Okay, so we are going to look at variations of this, but this is what it is basically in a nutshell. Is that it is in your best interest to get your Google rankings as high as you can possibly get them. That only serves you. So this is all about strategies to try to do that. Now, I'm going to use Google as the example in all of this, but this is not restricted to just Google. This also applies to Bing. It also applies to Yahoo. All of these are doing variations of the same thing. But the point that I'm trying to get across to you is that there are strategies that you can employ that will actually get you a higher ranking in Google. And if you can actually get really good at it and get to the first page, you've made it. Keywording is a part of it. There's a whole number of strategies in here that we're going to talk about. Okay, but keywording is not the only one. As a matter of fact, keywording has actually sadly fallen down way on the list, but we're going to have that conversation really quickly. Are there any people in this class that are hand coding their website?
If I knew what that meant, yes.
Where you're writing HTML code.
I'm doing a few things, like for like the photo slider and stuff, like I'm adding manual elements to it.
And how are you doing that?
Lots of YouTube videos.
No. What do you use as an editor?
Oh, I use Wix, but then you can have like a HTML widget where you
So you can actually go in and edit your HTML code as text, right? Okay. Is anybody other than Bennett doing that?
I use Wix as well, and it gives you that option. So.
Okay, well then I'll show you guys. I'll show because I hand code, so I will show you an example of that. But I will also show this to you on Adobe's My Portfolio, and then also I can show you where it is on Squarespace. I'm not on Squarespace, but I'm sure they have a version of this for Wix. And Bennett will find where that is if he doesn't already know and get it to me, and I will post it to you guys because the process is basically the same for everyone. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to go to this screen right here just so that because I want to show you something else here. So when we talk about search engine optimization, when you take a look at this web page right here, you can see this is the web page. This just is, it is what it is. I'm going to bring up my website really quickly. And on my website, this is what my website is. And you can see this has got a bunch of pictures. Google has no idea about any of this shit. It doesn't know it doesn't know that it does know I have pictures here, but it has no idea what they are. It doesn't have any clue about any of those things. By the very same token, this thing right here, if we take a look here, it doesn't know anything about, it knows something about the structures here, but it has no idea, for instance, or it doesn't care actually, that this is green and that this is blue over here. So what Google actually looks at, and if you want to see the coding behind your website, as a matter of fact, this would be a great thing. Let's do it. Everybody just log in really quickly to go to your own website. So if you can just get your own website up, I'm going to show you. Now, I'm doing this in Chrome. Does anybody in this room want to use something other than Chrome? You'll find this in Safari as well. So I'll show it to you in both places. So let me get this up. And so I'm going to wait till everybody gets theirs up. I am. All right, so am I waiting for anybody? Have you got your website loaded? Okay, so if you're in Chrome, this is what I want you to do. Go up to the View menu, come down to Developer, and over to View Source. This is what is really building that page. So the page that we are looking at, it's sitting right back here, this is really built in HTML, and this is what it actually looks like. If you're in Safari, let me grab this exact same page, and let's go to Safari. You can get this in any browser. It's in Firefox as well. They're just in different places. So in Safari, In Safari, go up to the View menu and come down to, I take that back, come over to,
Solution is just don't use Safari.
yeah, okay, so if you're in Safari, go over to the Develop window and come down to, it's showing me in Web Inspector, but let's try Page Source instead. So come down and do Page Source. Yeah, and this is actually the code for it, and it's the same thing you can see right here. So I'm going to actually do this in Chrome, but the exact same thing, this whole madness of text that exists right here will exist. It's the same thing in Chrome. It'll be in the exact same order. So I'm going to show it to you in Chrome. So the things that we need to actually talk about here is that this is what this is what Google actually runs its algorithms on. So what Google does, it's this process, but Google sends out bots, the things that Ben was talking about this earlier. But basically what they are is they are small pieces of computer code that they send out to the internet, and it scours the internet. They call them, most of the time they'll call them spiders, because they just crawl all over the internet, and all their job is to do is to simply find pages. So they find your page. And then what they do is, you can see in here, and again, this is not going to be a class about writing code, but there are links that exist inside this page right here. You can see there's one of them right here. This is a link. This is a shortcut to the tool thing that he's got on here. And there's another link down here. This is actually a link to how he wants his images to look. But that's basically what's going on here. Anyway, so Google, so they're spiders that go out. They scour all of this stuff. They find your home page. They report that back to Google. Then they actually go and they follow all the links that are on your home page, and they actually report those back to Google. And they continue this process, and it's nonstop. These spiders exist on the web, and they never, ever, ever quit. And so ultimately what they do is they get this information, Google gets this information back, and they build an index. And it's an index of the entire internet. And they have this index. And the reason that Google can be so fast in doing search results is that all of the active searching has already been done. So when you do a search for Google, it does not go out and look at the internet and try to find whatever it is you're searching for. These indexes have already been built. And so whatever words that you're using to search for simply matches an index. And if you end up in that index, then you end up at the top of the list, and that's basically the process here. Does that sort of make sense, Liz?
How often are these indexes built?
You can actually, do you guys know about Wayback Machine? There's a thing called Wayback Machine that actually lets you go back in time and look at the internet in a different time. So for instance, I think, yeah, no, it's crazy. I'm just going to do a new one really quick. So again, I'll do it off of mine. So if you go to the Wayback Machine, it is the Internet Archive, but this is actually a sort of more consumer-friendly one version of this. This is not, the one that Google actually keeps for itself is far more extensive than this. But so this shows you every time that my website was indexed. So right now it's only been indexed once in 2019, but in 2018 it was done once here. It was done on the 23rd of March. It was then done back in 2017, on the 4th of August, on the 6th of October, on the 9th of November, on the 4th of September, the 20th of September again, the 4th of June. It's not like it's a consistent thing. It's not like you're getting scanned every 22 days. But it's a lot. It's really often. So at any rate, that's what Google is actually doing. So there are strategies, though, that you can use to actually plant seeds, for lack of a better way of putting it, that these spiders will find and that will actually raise your count in your Google standing. Does that sort of make sense? And the first one of these things that we actually need to talk about are, it's the thing that most people think happens here, are keywords. However, keywords are not what they used to be. It used to be, and you can see one, there's a set of them right here. So right here, if we look at the top up here, just to show you a little bit of what's going on right here, the first thing that I will show you is the keywords, and it's sitting right here. You can see it's a meta tag named keywords, and these are all keywords that he has actually put in. So it's meta tags, free meta tag generator, create meta tags. Those are all that have been supplied by the author, by whoever wrote this website. So when the Google spiders go around, they actually pick up this keyword tag and they will then index this stuff right here. And it used to be in the old days, the keywords were really extremely valuable. It was really the way the website, the initial part of Google actually worked, was based on these keywords. But then everybody figured this out and everybody started spamming their own websites. And so they would just fill their websites with a whole series of keywords trying to get any sort of hit that anybody would have. And Google caught on to that, and Google started to really diminish the value of keywords. And it actually reached the point now where there's a lot of people that will suggest to you that there is absolutely no value in using keywords at all. I disagree with that on some level, and I'm going to show you a strategy to actually leverage your keywords, but they don't play anywhere near as significant a role as they used to. So we need to talk about the things that do matter. And so the thing that's on the number one thing of everybody's list is this thing right up here would be considered the title. And if you take a look at the title right here, it says free meta tag generator tool : SEO book.com. That is the title. If you actually go back and look at the page itself, this is the title of the page that sits right up in here. So this part in here, this would be considered the title of this page. This is actually what's going on here. If we click on this guy, well, here, I'll show you mine really quick. So the title of mine, this thing right up here, Verser Engelhard Photography, that is the title of mine. So here, you guys need to write this down because this matters, and it's things that you can do. So in the case of your own website, what you should be doing is for every single page you go to in your website should have a slightly different version of whatever it is that you are talking about. So for instance, in mine, I've got 3 major books in my website, but at the top, the title of these is always Verser Engelhard Photography. They would suggest, if you want to, again, boost your rating in Google, that you have some variation in that it is not simply the same thing. That one of the biggest things that Google discounts is if they suspect that there has been copying and pasting. If they see that, they think it's been done automatically. They think that some automation is controlling your website, and they diminish you greatly for that. So what they would, for instance, say, in this case right here, this would be Verser Engelhard Photography Fashion. And then if I went to my next page right here, this would be Verser Engelhard Photography Beauty. And then if I went to this one right here, Verser Engelhard Photography Environment. Just those subtle little changes are enough variation in title that it will actually elevate your listing, your ratings in terms of Google. Does that sort of make sense? So it's the number one thing that you can actually do. The second thing that you can actually do is your metadata tag, and I'm going to show your description tag. I'm going to show you what it looks like back on this other site as well. So again, if I take a look at this, it's this next metadata tag. It's somewhere in here. And they're usually all up here at the very top. And it's this thing right here that says description. And if you take a look at the description here, it says learn how to create a good page title and the metadata description and keyword tags. Create perfect meta tags using Metamatic, our free meta tag generator. That's this. So where you see the description, and this is again why it's so important to Google, is this. I'm going to actually just do a search for this. on Google. It's not what I wanted.
SEO for growth?
No, I'm trying to find this guy's. I'm trying to search for what would come up to bring up this guy's book, and every time I try to type in just SEO book, it's actually taking me right to the site. So let me see if I can just do .com. At any rate, what that description is this right here. It's actually, yeah, and you guys know this, so any of the searches that you actually ultimately end up doing. So for instance, let's do Columbia College. It's this right here. See where it says right down here underneath this, where it says earn degrees completely online, no book cost, all this. This has all been written by the person who wrote the website. This is your descriptor tag right here. And you can author this. Every page that you have on your website has got a descriptor tag as well. You also need to vary those descriptor tags. You don't want the exact same thing in on the same one. This is actually as unique as your title is. So the two jobs that you have and the two most effective things that you can do right now as far as the behind the scenes part of your website is to come up with unique original page titles for all of your pages and to also come up with unique descriptors for all of your pages. Does that make sense to everyone?
Wait, I just feel like what do you put in the description without it being like weird? You know what I mean? Like I feel like, is it just supposed to be?
So wait. No, you've got one if you don't know it. You've already got one. So Maddie, what's your?
Checked, I don't have it.
Well, you do have one. So wait, Maddie, what's your website? So METI. FICRA. FICARA. This is your descriptor tag right here. Portfolio 1, Portfolio 2, video, contact, whatever. That is your descriptor. It's because you haven't put one in. So it's pulling text off the front of your page. This is not helping you at all. This is your place to sell yourself. Guess what you put in this spot?
Your bio?
No, your brand statement. Oh. Right? But every one of your pages needs a small modification of your brand statement. You cannot, let's say you've got 50 pages of your website. You cannot copy and paste that as your descriptor for all 50 of those pages. You do a minor variation, a subtle variation, because what Google then does is it goes in here and it looks at it and it says, okay, this is clearly not an automated site. This is not a site that just people have put on auto drive. This is a real person who's in here. There's a real person who's behind this, and it amps up your ratings monstrously because of that. So again, that's would be the next thing we'd actually talk about as far as that part goes. Guys, I'm going to continue this just a little bit. This is not going to take us too much longer to get through this. I just want to get through all the bullet points of this. When you get back, I will show you a quick version of how to hand code this and also a quick version of where to find this on other pages, and then I just want to get through this part. So those would be the first two items and the first two things that you absolutely should be considering in all this, because again, we're just trying to drive those results as much as we possibly can. So the next thing on the list would be your keywords. So again, if we go back to this site that we were actually looking at, and you can see this is it sits up here at the very, very, very top where the keywords. And these are all supplied by you. These are the person who's ever writing this. So the person who built this website is supplying these keywords right here. So the one thing that I can tell you about keywords is this. Although, again, it's diminished greatly in its importance, the one thing that it does that you should think about is you should be using what they call long tail keywords. And the difference in a regular keyword and a long tail keyword would be this. A long tail keyword would be woman's dress red small. That would be a long tail keyword. Short tail or no tail keyword, whatever, would be dress. So what you need to think about is, in doing your keywording, is you need to think about how people would actually search and find you. So when you guys do a search, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say you never use a single word as a search. You would never go in and search photo or camera or paper, right? You get really specific about it. You would do, if you're looking to get Epson paper here in Chicago, you would do Epson paper, glossy, Chicago, and probably throw in your zip code, right? Those, that would be a long tail keyword. Again, that's the way you need to think about constructing your keywords, is really more key phrases than keywords. Does that make sense? Okay, so this is the last thing I'll tell you about Google, and this is the tricky thing about doing keywords. The number one strategy people have is that, and it's the wrong one, is that you use very common keywords. So everybody in this room could use Chicago, photographer, some of you guys would throw in fashion, some of you guys would throw in entertainment, whatever. Do you know how many fashion photographers or photographers there are in the city of Chicago, or if you did that in New York? The likelihood that you, starting out, are going to actually rise up to the top is slim to non-existent. So what your job is to do is to actually use differentiation, keywords, small, minor things that really make you more of a specialist, right? So for instance, you could start to talk about doing kids fashion or specifically haute couture fashion, or I mean, you would label it as much more specific than just fashion photographer Chicago. However, then you can swing too far to the other side. You cannot get so esoteric in your keywording that nobody would ever use that keyword to look for you, right? So for instance, you can't do something like, oh, yeah, you know, you can't say, I'm trying to think of a geometric fashion photographer. You know, well, that might be what you do. You only shoot geometric pattern or geometric shape, whatever. But what is the likelihood that somebody's going to search for a geometric pattern photographer? It's pretty slim. So it's this balancing act. You cannot be so generalized that you never go up in the rankings because there's too many people there already. But you can't be so specific and so specialized that you're using terms that nobody would ever search for. Because if they're never searching for those terms, your keywording is worthless anyway. Does that sort of make sense? Okay, so that's the bad news. The good news in this is that it's not the only strategy to drive traffic to your website. And so I'm going to just talk about the last couple of things here really quickly, and in terms of things that you need to think about. I take it back. This is just going to be a good time for a break because I'm just going to keep going on and on and on here. Guys, let's call this 3:05 if you don't mind, whatever. If you could be back by quarter after. I know it's short, but we've got so much to get through today. So if you guys can just be back at quarter after, that'd be great.
Website actually comes up when I type it in.